For my final, for the oral presentation, I chose A Worn Path by Eudora Welty, which I think is how you say that, but I'm not for sure. And I chose this font because it looked old, kind of like worn, so I thought that was a cool feature to add. And with the audio I'm using, which is Screenotactic, I think it's called, it does cut in and out, so just try to stay with me and we'll try to get through it. And I'm also outside, so you might hear birds, and also have pet birds right there. So if you hear the screech, you know it's probably them, but just try to just get through it together. So A Warm Path by Eudora Welty. There it is. Okay, so for section 2, the author is Eudora Welty, I think, because I still know how to pronounce it. And for this little paragraph, it's kind of like background information about her and the way she writes. So I'm just going to read that to you right now. Welty's main subject is the intricacies of human relationships, particularly as revealed through her characters' interactions and intimate social encounters. Among her themes are the subjectivity and ambiguity of people's perception of character and the presence of virtue hidden beneath an obscuring surface of convention, insensitivity, and social prejudice. Welty's outlook is hopeful and love is viewed as a redeeming presence in the midst of isolation and indifference. Her works combine humor and psychological equity with the sharp ear of regional speech patterns. I can never get through that without stuttering. I've tried, it's so many words, but basically I did some more research, and this kind of means that every short story that she writes kind of describes a psychological trait about herself that she's felt. So I thought that was really cool, and that's why I added this in here in the first place, and it's also really good background information about the author. So for my summary, it's kind of small, but it's basically all that happens in the story. An African American woman named Phoenix, who is a grandmother, I'll just add that in there because it's not in there, is walking through the forest trying to stay on the path. When she's trying to stay on the path, she's actually trying to go into town to get medicine for her grandson, which is at the end. While walking through, she encounters many fearful things, some psychological and some real, and some that require like courageous behaviors. She makes this journey to try to go get some medicine for her grandson, who is sick. And at the end of the story, you find out he's sick, like his throat is really swelled. I think that was at the end of the story. But I'm not sure what he's sick with. I don't know if it ever describes that. So that's pretty much all that happens in the story, is we just watch her go through the woods and hit the final encounters. Section 3. Gut reaction. So before I even read the story, I actually read a little summary on SparkNotes. I wasn't like, every time I try to read a story, I try to read the summary so I know what's going on, especially like short stories. Sometimes it's hard to keep up. And for the summary, when I was reading about the part with like the man and the gun, I was like, wait, I thought this was about like a grandmother. Like I was like, what? That doesn't usually happen. And so that was pretty much it. And when I was describing in the summary that I read, and it's cited at the end of the summary where I got it, which was the Atlantic magazine. When I was reading it, it described how it had psychological like battles she had a battle, and I thought that was interesting. I wonder what that's going to be in the story. So in the story, finding out what real and what isn't was kind of like a shocker for me. Like, I thought the man with the gun and the dog wasn't going to be real, like the boy who had the sandwich that he gave it to her, and it was real. So I thought like it was kind of hard to keep up. Like, wait, is this real or is this not? Is this in her mind? Is this just the fear that she has? So it was kind of hard to keep up, but when you did find it out, it was kind of like, oh, okay, that actually did happen. So it caught me off guard. And what admired courage, but I really meant like the guy with the gun, like why is this happening? Why is this dude with the gun pointing this at his grandmother? And then he just lets her go because he's like, all right, keep walking, Granny, type of thing. And I was like, wait, what? Like that's just why is he there? Why is any of this happening? And it doesn't really explain it in the story. It's just supposed to be a journey into town, staying on the path. And at the end of the story, it gets kind of confusing because she's talking to the nurse and the grandmother isn't responding. So the nurse keeps asking questions like, is the grandson dead? Is he still alive? And the grandmother never, she does say he's alive, I'm pretty sure. It was kind of hard to keep track in the story. So I still have the question, is the grandson really dead? Or like, why was that a commotion in the first place? So that was my gut reaction reading the story once. I reread the story multiple times trying to find out what real and what isn't real, like it says on the second bullet point, because I just didn't know. So I did reread it quite a bit, and it was very hard to keep up. But it was good. I found it out anyway, so that's good. There it is. Alright, so I don't know what number this is for Roman numeral, which is really sad, but I did this section as one of my too over all of them. So this is the overall scope and context of the story. So this is a little background information that has to do not only with the author, but right before she read this story. And I got this source. I'm not remember sure, but everything is when we're excited, so you can find it all down there. But so I'm just going to read what I found out to you. Before writing The Worn Path, Eudora Welty was a publicity agent for Works Progress Administration in the 1930s. During that time, she captured many moments of the rural life of Black Americans on her camera. Phoenix Jackson's story is very similar to the woman she came across at this time. So I think I just wrote a little like I was writing it really quickly. This is a little like what I thought when I read this add-on. The reason for writing the story was Eudora to try to tell the story of someone else because of the events that happen in the story. It sounds a lot like character traits, which it does. Like when you're reading the story, I said, for example, the boy trying to give her a sandwich but ends up not being real could be the story of one of those women feeling lost, like they lost somebody. So I thought that could be like a character trait. And her fear of seeing someone in the field but ends up being a scarecrow. And she actually does say the line in the story, "My senses is gone. I too old. I the oldest people I ever know dance old scarecrow. This could be taken as a fear of getting old." Which I thought was like pretty cool because maybe one of the women she talked to could have been like, this is my fear and this, and she's just trying to add all of these stories from these African Americans in this one short story, which I thought was pretty amazing. So every time it's something real, something not, I thought it could be a different fear. It could be a phobia, like the fear of dying with the gun and the man, or the fear of like a dog chasing, like I don't know, stuff like that. And I thought that was pretty cool that she just all put it in one story. So that's kind of like why did she write it, type of overall context. Alright, so section, I think this is 8. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not for real, because I don't know Roman numerals. Most notable. I thought the scene where the grandmother meets the dog and the man who is armed is the most what in the world scene ever. Because at first she's going through barbed wire, and then she's going through the woods, and I'm like, oh, who's she gonna meet out in the woods? No, it's a man with a gun and like a really dangerous dog. And I said, in this scene, she sees a man stick his dog on another dog that is coming toward them. The man seems to enjoy watching. At the end, the man actually shoots the other dog. The man then pulls the gun on Phoenix, who responds, "No, sir." Or the man actually says, "Are you scared?" And then she says, "No, sir, I've seen plenty go off closer by in my day and for less what I have done." So this leads to a bunch of questions like, well, what does that mean, less than what I've done? Why is she saying this question? Or why is she telling this to him? Like, what has she done? And she's not even afraid of like dying, or like a man is pointing a gun. And in the story, it says she stands utterly still, like not a fear escapes. And I said, what? Like, why? That's not how I would react. I don't know why she's reacting that way. And it doesn't really say it. And I say right here, it's clear the grandmother isn't afraid of death, but why? Because you just don't know. And I said this adds a dramatic climax to the story and adds a character trait of courage to Phoenix, which is important because she has made the journey all the way through the woods to get some medicine. So it's clear Phoenix just isn't afraid to get anything, and she really wants this medicine for her grandson, and she's willing to like to fight for it, and clearly willing to like put up with some stuff for it for some reason. So my last thoughts when I read the story is the grandson alive? Because I just don't know if he's alive or not. And I said the overall story is really attention grabbing because it does start with, oh, this little old lady, and then like she's going through this and she's going through that. And it's like, wait, what's gonna happen next? Like, is she gonna meet like death on the next trip? You don't even know. And I said it makes you want to read it over and over because it seems like every time you read it, it's supposed to say you catch something. I don't know why it says watch, but you do because you're reading it and you're like, wait, go back. That wasn't real. Like stuff like that. And so you want to reread it over and over and over again. And the question is, does she live near town? If so, why does she walk through the woods? Because the story does start with, all right, let me make the journey through the woods, and then she has to walk through barbed wire, and she walks through a field of a scarecrow, like a humongous field. So the question is, where does this woman live? And why does she have to go through all this, like barbed wire, the field, the forest, just to get to a road that leads to town? Like, what is she behind? But it never answers that in the story. It just describes her like just describes her journey trying to get through town. So I don't understand why she has to walk through all of that. But those are some of my questions, and this is my works cited page as 2 sources. I'm about to add another one for the story itself, and the Atlantic should be on here, but I don't see it, so I'll add the Atlantic too. And alright, that's all for my presentation, and I'm at 9 minutes, so bye!